about Open Hardware Group.
Sure. Well, Open Hardware Group's a global nonprofit ecosystem, much like the RISC-V international organization, made up of around 88 members and partners currently, but we're focused on open source implementations of RISC-V cores, right? So basically a customer, if you will, of the RISC-V ISA, just like any other company would be.
Fantastic. So what is the latest news for Open Hardware Group on RISC-V?
So this week here at Embedded World, we launched the Core 5 MCU Dev Kit. So it's, open ISA, built into an open source core, built into an open source MCU, leveraging open source OS like FreeRTOS, open source tool chain, streaming data into the cloud. So this is a tiny MCU that's available now for evaluation on FPGA, and we're building this SoC with Global Foundries and 22FDX later this year. So we launched the whole dev kit and have a little application showing sensor data, basically from a fleet, 12 sensors spread out around the world. There's 4 here at Embedded World, and another 8 in different locations around the world, all streaming, fleet temperature information up into the Amazon cloud as a demo application.
Wow, that's fantastic. So are there specific industries where you see a lot of development with Open Hardware Group?
Yeah, I think, I think as folks have said previously, the thin edge of the wedge, if you will, is sort of the deeply embedded applications where the cores are actually buried. You don't even know that they're there. The API is not exposed. They're controller cores on a larger SoC. So IoT and embedded applications, very power sensitive, require, can benefit from a performance standpoint with custom accelerators attached to the cores. Those kinds of end applications are where the open source cores are being adopted first, but that's continuing to grow, right? So coherent clusters with SMP Linux, running, some intelligent applications, and all of that is really starting to happen. As you know, there are billions of cores in production right now that are RISC-V based.
So you really started in the embedded end, and you're here to help provide open source all the way through.
Yeah, the Core 5 family, that's the brand name of these open source cores. There are 11 different processors in design right now in the open hardware community on the Core 5 roadmap. And they range from super small, tiny, 2-stage and 4-stage embedded class cores to larger application class cores capable of coherent clusters that would run SMP Linux.
That's fantastic. So, Open Hardware Group, RISC-V, what does the future hold?
Well, I think we'll continue to see a hybrid of commercial offerings for RISC-V architectures and open source offerings. Just the same way that Linux exploded with a bunch of open source implementations that you can use, and then commercially supported enterprise release like Red Hat releases at a Red Hat the RHEL releases at a Red Hat and so on. So I think the hardware industry overall is in an interesting inflection point where a hybrid model of commercially sourced IP and capability and open sourced IP and capability will be integrated together into sort of next generation SoCs and systems.
Rick, you hit the nail on the head. Open source is about building that strong foundation with open foundation building blocks, right? And you can add on open source or proprietary solutions and go to market and be wildly successful.
Exactly. It's not an exclusive or, it's an and, right? And you leverage the best building blocks for your application and focus where your value add can be.
Fantastic.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.